Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Emily Carter. And the last thing I ever expected was to be told to eat with the help by the woman who called herself my grandmother. You're not family. You're just a charity case. The servants eat in the back kitchen, you eat with them. Her words sliced through the dinner air like broken glass, and suddenly, everything went silent. Forks froze midair. My cousin Brittany choked on her wine, trying not to laugh. And I just stared at my plate, then back at her. What did you just say to me? I asked, my voice shaking, not from fear, but from the pressure of 1,000 memories slamming against my chest all at once. She didn't flinch. You heard me, girl, she said, that smug smile curling at the corners of her lipstick-smeared mouth. You live under my roof, eat my food, and sleep in a room I gave you. You want more? You earn it. Until then, know your place. My chair scraped loudly as I stood. No. You listen, Evelyn, I said, using her first name for the first time in my life, and watching her eyes narrow like a snake ready to strike. I've cleaned your dishes. Folded your sheets. Worked in silence while you praised your precious granddaughter for showing up with an empty purse and a fake smile. I never asked for your charity. I only ever wanted one thing, your respect. But you just spit on me in front of everyone. A gasp ran down the table like a fire. My uncle cleared his throat. My aunt clutched her pearls like I'd just pulled a knife. You ungrateful little brat, she snapped, slamming her hands on the table. We took you in after your mother died. We fed you. We gave you everything. No, I corrected. You gave me a closet with a mattress and rules. You gave me chores and silence. And tonight, you gave me this. I looked down at the porcelain plate in front of me, duck confit, asparagus tips, truffle mash, worth more than a week of my paycheck. But it suddenly looked rotten. So you want me to eat with the servants? I asked again, my voice trembling, but louder this time. Fine. I'll go. But not before I leave you something on this plate. I picked up the silver fork and tapped it twice on the edge of the china, soft, slow, deliberate. You know what's funny, Grandma? I said. The staff you look down on, Maria, who cooks better than half the chefs in New York. David, who irons your clothes like he's folding silk dreams, and Linda, who once snuck me soup when I had a fever and you told me to shake it off, they've shown me more love than you ever have. So yeah, maybe I will eat with them. At least they look me in the eyes when they speak. Emily, my uncle barked, this isn't the time. No, I said, staring straight into Evelyn's cold, watery eyes. This is exactly the time. And with that, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the one thing she feared more than poverty, truth. A folded letter. I laid it gently on the plate in front of her, right on top of her untouched dinner. Her face stiffened. Her hand hovered, unsure. Go ahead, I whispered. Read it out loud. Or should I? Everyone was still now. Even Brittany had put down her phone. Evelyn hesitated, then snatched it like I'd insulted her royalty. She opened it with shaky fingers, her eyes darting left to right. Her lips tightened. Her jaw locked. That's from my mother, I said. Written the week before she died. I leaned forward, my voice low. She begged you to take me in. Not out of pity. But because you were family. And you swore you'd love me like your own. Her hands trembled now, but the fire in her eyes refused to die. That doesn't change anything, she spat. You're still not blood. Neither is the maid who raised you after your mother dropped you off with strangers. Or the driver who saved you from that crash last year. You call people family when it's convenient, and trash when they speak back. She stood then, trembling but upright. And leaned forward over the table like a crumbling tower. I built this house. This name. This legacy, she hissed. You think you can walk in and lecture me? A girl with a dead mother and no inheritance? I smiled. No, Evelyn, I said. I don't want your inheritance. I want something you never had the grace to give anyone who wasn't perfect. Which is, she challenged. Human decency. I pushed in my chair. You told me to eat with the servants. And I will. But after tonight, don't expect me to serve at your table ever again. And just like that, I turned and walked toward the kitchen, heels echoing in the marble silence, leaving behind a dinner table full of frozen faces, one furious woman, and a letter soaked in everything she tried to forget. Because I wasn't the help. I wasn't the charity case. I was the reminder of what real love should have looked like. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. When I first arrived at Evelyn's mansion, I was 14 years old. I remember the cold air hitting my face as I stepped out of the social worker's car. It smelled like roses and money and something else I couldn't name at the time, judgment. My mother had passed away just days earlier. Cancer. Fast. Brutal. And in the middle of her last breaths, she gripped my hand and whispered one name, go to Evelyn. I didn't even know who she was back then. My mother rarely spoke about her family. I thought we didn't have any. But it turns out we did, they just didn't want us. Still, I was desperate. Alone. And Evelyn was all that was left. The gates opened like the jaws of some giant beast, and I stepped through, holding nothing but a duffel bag and a letter clutched to my chest. Her letter. The one I'd later lay on that dinner plate. Evelyn met me in the foyer with a tight smile and even tighter lips. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask how I was doing. Her first words were, I suppose you'll need a room. No, I'm sorry for your loss. No, you're safe now. Just logistics. She pointed to Maria, the housekeeper, and said, put her in the spare room. The one by the laundry. Then walked away like I was an appointment she had already overbooked. That room wasn't a room. It was a converted storage closet with a single window so high I had to stand on the bed just to see the sky. But I didn't complain. I told myself, she's grieving too. Give it time. But time didn't help. The days bled into weeks. And every morning started the same, breakfast for the family in the main dining room, and leftovers for me in the kitchen. When I tried to join them once, Brittany looked me up and down and said, I think you're supposed to eat with the staff? She laughed like it was a joke. Evelyn didn't. Don't embarrass yourself, Emily, she said without looking up from her eggs. We have traditions here. Traditions. Like Sunday brunches I wasn't invited to. Like family portraits where I was asked to hold the camera. Like holidays where I sat at the kids' table, even after I turned 18. But I stayed. I stayed because I had nowhere else to go. Because despite it all, some part of me believed that if I worked hard enough, if I was kind enough, if I kept my head down long enough, maybe she'd see me. And in a way, she did. She saw a free maid. A live-in assistant. A fill-in for the daughter she never liked, and a reminder of the daughter she cut off. Because here's what no one knew, Evelyn wasn't just my grandmother by blood. She was the reason my mother left in the first place. I found the letters years later, stashed in an old box under Maria's bed, of all places. Letters my mother had sent after I was born. Pleading. Begging. Asking Evelyn to visit. To call. To care. Evelyn never responded. Not once. Until the cancer came knocking, and suddenly, she had just enough guilt to agree to take me in, but not enough to love me. There were good days, sure. Maria taught me how to cook. David showed me how to iron a dress shirt so perfectly you could see your reflection. The staff became my real family, people paid to serve but who chose to care. It was David who taught me to drive. It was Linda who hugged me on the anniversary of my mom's death. It was Maria who once told me, in whispered Spanish I barely understood, You have more grace in your little finger than all of them put together. But no matter how much I gave, Evelyn never softened. When I got straight A's, she said, "Good. That's expected." When I got into college, she said, "Community school. Try harder next time." And when I got a scholarship to Columbia? She didn't even come to my orientation. Brittany, on the other hand, could crash a car, fail a class, and skip work, and Evelyn would still smile and say, "She's just finding herself." No matter what I did, I was always that girl. Not her girl. Just that girl. The final crack came last year, during Evelyn's 75th birthday party. A black tie gala at the house, with gold invitations and a live quartet. I was told to assist, not attend. Brittany walked in with a designer gown she didn't pay for and called me her +0. Then Evelyn asked me to help the caterers, in front of everyone. That night, I sat in the pantry with Linda, eating leftover macarons and blinking back tears. She put a hand on mine and said, "One day, Mija, you're going to break this curse. And she'll choke on everything she ever said to you." I didn't believe her then. But maybe, deep down, I hoped. Still, I never fought back. Never spoke up. Not until tonight. Tonight, when Evelyn told me, in front of the whole family, to eat with the servants. It was like all those years, all those words I swallowed, came pouring out at once. And I couldn't hold them in anymore. Because I wasn't a servant. I was the product of a woman Evelyn cast out. I was the granddaughter she never claimed. I was the storm she'd spent her life trying to avoid. And the storm had arrived. The silence after she said it was louder than any scream. "Eat with the servants," she told me, waving her hand like I was a stain on her tablecloth. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a reckless way, not in a throw a glass across the room way. No. It was quieter than that. More dangerous. Because for the first time in my life, I stopped needing her approval. I stood up slowly. The whole table watched, forks frozen, champagne flutes midway to lips. Brittany smirked, expecting a meltdown. Evelyn didn't even look up. That made it worse. I walked around the table. Picked up my plate with the untouched filet mignon, truffle potatoes, and asparagus tips, a meal I had helped plan, coordinate, and triple-check with the chef. I didn't throw it. I didn't cry. I simply walked into the kitchen, sat it down, and wrote her a note on the napkin. A note I had been writing in my head for years. "You taught me to stay small. But I outgrew you the moment I learned how to stand." I laid the napkin across the plate, carried it back, and gently, quietly, set it down right in front of her. She blinked, finally looking up. "What is this?" she asked, her voice icy. "A goodbye," I said. "Bon appetit." And I left. I walked right out the same door I had walked through at 14. But this time I wasn't clutching a duffel bag. I wasn't looking for a home. I wasn't hoping to be loved. I was done. But I wasn't running. Not anymore. You see, I had a plan. One Evelyn never saw coming. Because while she was busy ignoring me, dismissing me, and using me, I was building something. For years, I had worked behind the scenes in the very shadows she pushed me into, learning, watching, soaking up everything she thought I was too dumb to understand. I learned how to read contracts from the lawyers she had lunch with. I learned about real estate deals while filing her paperwork. I studied business finance while balancing the family's petty cash. And during college, the one she never helped pay for, I interned at a private equity firm during the day and worked in a bakery at night. That's right, I made cupcakes by hand while reading balance sheets on my phone in the back room. I graduated early. Summa cum laude. I never told her. She wouldn't have cared. But the partner at my firm? He noticed. In fact, he did more than notice. He offered me a position. And not just any position, a role on a team managing one of the firm's newest acquisitions. A company Evelyn used to mock as beneath our legacy. Turns out that company was buying out smaller family-owned estates, like the one Evelyn refused to modernize, and turning them into high-value assets. And guess who was assigned as one of the senior consultants on the project? Me. I was now the strategist overseeing the purchase and repurposing of Evelyn's entire property portfolio. Her estate. Her wine vineyard. Her boutique hotel. All on the chopping block. And not because I wanted revenge, not entirely. I wanted freedom. I wanted the next girl like me, the one pushed to the side, the one eating in the back room while others toasted to fake legacies, to have a seat at the damn table. I didn't come back to destroy her. I came back to take what she wouldn't give me. My name. My worth. My power. A week after I walked out, I returned, not with a suitcase, but with a clipboard, a legal team, and a board resolution. The look on her face when I stepped through that front door again, in a blazer, heels, and purpose, was everything I never knew I needed. "Emily," she said, squinting like I was a ghost. "No," I replied. "Miss Carter. I'm here on behalf of Vanguard Properties." She laughed. She actually laughed. "You're joking." I set the papers down on the table, the same table she once told me I didn't belong at. "Effective immediately," I said, "we are initiating restructuring of all underperforming family holdings under your name. You can stay on as an honorary board advisor, or you can step aside completely." Her hand trembled. You can't do this." I leaned in. Calm. Measured. But not cruel. "I already did." She tried to fight it. Of course she did. Tried to call lawyers, tried to get her name off old contracts, tried to paint me as the little girl with dirty shoes and no voice. But it was too late. I had a voice now. And the world was finally listening. She didn't cry at first. Evelyn wasn't the crying type. She was the controlling type. The type who thought her silence was louder than your screams. Who believed her money could erase any damage, except, this time, the damage was already done. And it was signed, notarized, and fully executed by the board. She tried to gather the others, thinking she could rally them. Uncle Richard? He sided with me the moment I showed him how she'd mismanaged his trust fund. Aunt Denise? She flipped when I pulled out bank statements showing Evelyn had been siphoning funds to cover personal expenses, all while scolding me for asking for a raise back when I worked under her. Even Brittany, little golden Brittany, the heir apparent to Evelyn's empire, she didn't have much to say once I revealed the inheritance clause Evelyn never told her about. Turns out, if Evelyn ever became financially insolvent, which she was 5 months from becoming, everything would go to me. Why? Because my grandfather, Evelyn's father, left behind a private amendment in the estate plan. One that no one saw, because she buried it. He left the clause for the child who works, not the one who waits. And I worked. Every damn day. So when I read it aloud, in front of all of them, Evelyn finally snapped. She stood, red-faced, shaking. "This is my house," she shouted. "You were nothing but a charity case. You don't belong here." Her voice cracked on the last word. I looked at her, no longer with anger, but with something worse, pity. "No," I said, "you're right. I didn't belong here." Then I paused. Let it hang in the air like a verdict. But I made a place anyway. She tried to walk out, but her steps were unsure. The woman who once ruled every room was now a shadow of herself, not because I broke her, but because her lies finally caught up. You see, when someone lives off power, off manipulation, when they build walls so high even they can't climb out, they forget that truth doesn't knock. It kicks the door down. She collapsed into a chair, not in a faint, but in disbelief. "I gave you a home," she whispered. I knelt beside her, finally steady, finally clear. "No. You gave me a roof. I built the home myself." For a long second, she didn't say anything. Then, for the first time in my life, Evelyn looked small. She didn't scream. Didn't threaten. She just sat there, quiet, like someone watching her own story end. And I didn't enjoy it. I thought I would. I thought I'd feel powerful, triumphant. But the truth? I just felt free. Not because I won, but because I stopped needing her to lose. Word spread fast. By the end of that month, I'd officially taken over the family's holdings and placed them in a modern trust. We restructured everything, not to punish, but to preserve. The staff who had once been overlooked got promotions. Salaries were reviewed. Conditions improved. Even the kitchen, where she told me to eat with the servants, became the heart of the estate again. Only this time I sat there by choice. And I invited everyone. Including the people she ignored. The old gardener who'd been with us for 30 years? I made him head of estate operations. The maid who once slipped me an extra cookie when Evelyn wasn't looking. She's now our guest coordinator. Her daughter's in college. We're paying half her tuition. I changed the legacy, not to erase it, but to redeem it. Because I didn't want Evelyn's story to end in bitterness. I wanted mine to begin in truth. And for once, I think she saw that. One afternoon, weeks later, she showed up quietly. No driver. No fanfare. Just her, standing at the back of the property, watching me speak to a group of interns we'd brought in from underserved communities. I didn't stop. I finished my talk. I let her wait. When it was over, she came forward, not proud, not arrogant. "Emily," she said, her voice thinner than I'd ever heard. I turned. Let her speak first. "I was cruel to you." I nodded. "You were," I said. She looked down, eyes watery. I didn't know how else to be. I didn't offer her comfort. That was no longer my job. But I did offer her truth. You don't have to be anything now. You can just rest. She looked up at me. I don't deserve forgiveness, she said. I'm not giving it, I replied. I'm just giving peace. She didn't hug me. I didn't ask her to. We simply stood there, in the garden she once forbade me from stepping into, watching a new generation walk through the doors she tried to close. And for the first time, she didn't stop them. She let them in. They say revenge is sweet. But I learned something different. Revenge is loud, but redemption? Redemption is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It just needs truth, and time. Months passed. Then a year. And slowly, things changed, not because I forced them, but because I lived them. I didn't turn into Evelyn. I didn't let bitterness grow roots in me the way it had in her. I gave more than I ever received, and somehow, it came back. In kindness. In loyalty. In respect. We opened a community kitchen in the same neighborhood Evelyn once called beneath us. I named it after the chef who once snuck me extra bread on nights she knew I went to bed hungry. Mrs. Carla cried when she saw the sign, Carla's Table, where everyone eats. We offered internships to kids who grew up like me, in the shadows of big houses, never quite welcome inside. Now, they walked through the front doors like they owned the place. Because they will. One day, a girl asked me, "Weren't you embarrassed eating with the workers back then?" I smiled. "No," I said. Because they were the only ones who saw me. And it hit me. Sometimes, the people the world calls servants are the ones who carry the most dignity. The most grace. The most heart. And as for Evelyn? She visits from time to time. Not to criticize. Not to command. She just sits. Watches. And every now and then, she brings something. A tray of food. A book she used to read as a girl. Once, she brought a note. It said, "I spent my whole life trying to be above everyone. You spent yours lifting them." I wish I had learned sooner. She never signed it. She didn't have to. Last week, I got invited to speak at a women's leadership summit. I stood in front of 300 people. CEOs. Founders. Politicians. I told them the truth. That I once ate with the servants. That I was told to stay small in a house that looked big. That the very people who tried to keep me out are the reason I now know how to lead with empathy. And when I finished, they stood up. Every one of them. Not because I was powerful, but because I was honest. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't about Evelyn anymore. This wasn't about revenge. It was about legacy. About building a world where no little girl ever has to feel like a guest in her own life again. So now I leave you with this. When someone tells you to sit with the servants, will you shrink down to fit their story? Or will you rise up and write your own? Because in the end, what you leave on their plate might just be the lesson they never saw coming.